Bellagio Poker Room, Rose speaking.
Hi Rose, can you put Andrew on the 510 please?
Thank you, Andrew.
Wednesday afternoon, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Heading up to the Bellagio. Currently 3 510 games running at the Bellagio. And if I'm not mistaken, that is the total number of 510 games that are currently running in the entire city of Las Vegas. No 510 games at the Aria right now. No 510 games at the Encore right now. Bellagio, the only spot to find a 510 game on a Wednesday afternoon in Las Vegas. People think of Las Vegas as this big gambling mecca, just crazy action all the time going on all over the city. I'd be willing to bet that I could, if we look up on Bravo, I bet there's more 510 games going on in Los Angeles than there are right now in Las Vegas. Probably by a long shot. Let's take a look. Just at the Commerce alone, there are currently 4 510 games going right now. Can you read that? See right there? 500 to 1500? That's 510, and there's 4 of them just at the Commerce. I think I smell an LA trip in our near future. What do you say about that? It's okay though, because you can only play one game at a time, right? So if we just find one good game here at the Bellagio, we'll be good. So they're actually trying to start a 4th game. I walked in and they just called down the list for the 4th game. They must have heard me talking on the way over in the car, but so we'll see if it gets going. There's 4 or 5 of us sitting around the table right now. It'll probably go, so let's get to it. So in this hand, there's 2 limps. I look down at Queen Jack on the button, raise it up to 50. The small blind calls and both limpers call. The flop comes 5-5-4 rainbow. Not a great flop for us. So the small blind checks and the first limper checks. The second limper bets $40 into a $200 pot. It seems to me that it's pretty obvious what he's trying to accomplish here. He could be trying to induce with a 5 of some sort. There's probably some small percentage of the time that an opponent will do that. A lot of times it seems relatively face up, where he's got some sort of a pair, small to middle pair, and is trying to see where he's at with a small probing type bet. So I decide to exploitively try and take advantage of that, and I decide to raise it up to 110. I don't think I need to make a big raise in these kinds of situations. I want to fold out the other 2 players, fold out whatever equity they may have, and kind of maintain control of the pot. Not really so much that, but also to just kind of tell the story of a good value hand that I have. So normally I would really like my play here. The problem in this exact instance is that I didn't realize that the guy who bet $40 only has maybe another $250 behind at this point. I mean, who has $250 behind in a 5-10 game? So anyway, the small blind folds, the first limper folds, and it gets back to this guy. He goes into the tank forever. He starts thinking and thinking and thinking. It's at this point that I realize that he's only got $250 left, and I start thinking about, well, what am I supposed to do here? If he jams all in, am I supposed to call it off with 2 overs? Anyway, he ends up calling the $110. The turn is a pretty good card for us. The turn is an ace. He pretty much can't beat anything unless he has a 5. So he checks to me. I guess what I've been doing in these types of spots lately is trying to represent a big pair. I don't know if I necessarily need to jam the turn right away. I don't think it makes a big difference whether I check back on the turn and then jam the river, or if that's bad, if I'm giving him a free card to make a full house on the river with his pocket pairs. But anyway, I decide to check. The river brings a 10. He checks pretty quickly, and I decide to finish the story that I've been telling. I bet enough to put him all in on the river, and good news is that he folds pretty quickly. So in this hand, there's a raise to $50 from the under the gun position. It's definitely a little bit bigger than normal of a raise, so I certainly might fold maybe some percentage of my hands that I might call a 3x or 4x raise with. But when I look down at King Jack suited on the button, you know what Phil Locke says, 40% of a royal flush. That's not going into the muck anytime soon. So I call on the button, and both blinds call as well. The flop comes 9-6-3 with 2 diamonds. Both blinds check, and the initial raiser checks as well. You could definitely make a case for betting here. We only have king high, which isn't going to be good for much showdown value. But I think the problem with betting is that the 2 blinds, as far as relative position goes, I don't want to get check raised by one of the blinds after they had checked to the raiser. I don't want to bloat the pot in that kind of an instance. So I just decided to check and take the free card. The turn pairs the 9. Not a great card, but no need to necessarily assign anybody a full house or anything right off the bat. So the small blind checks, and this time the big blind bets 120. The initial raiser folds, and I think you could make a case for folding, but with the flush draw and 2 overs, it seems like we should have pretty good equity here. A lot of times, either of our overs will be good, and certainly the flush will be good a lot of the time. So I call, and then the small blind calls as well behind. The river is the 4 of diamonds, so we make the king high flush. On the river, the small blind leads out for $330. The big blind folds, and it's back on us. I don't think we have too many options here. I guess maybe against some opponents you could consider raising, and then I don't think you could even consider folding against very tight players. Maybe. It seems like there isn't much choice here. Raising with a non-nut flush on a paired board doesn't seem great. I mean, let's be honest, I'm just never folding this hand, you know? So I call, and small blind rolls over, ace high flush, ace 10 of diamonds, 40% of a royal flush. So in this hand, the under the gun player limps. There's an early position raise to 40, and the button 3 bets to $120. We look down in the big blind at pocket queens. Another spot where you could make a case for several different actions other than folding, of course. A lot of people advocate a 4-bet here versus a button 3-bet. Definitely has some merit. I'm a fan of playing post flop. I don't want to get 5-bet jammed on. Doesn't seem like a great situation. And also, since the first raise came from the early position, I'm usually less likely to put in re-raises when initial raises come from earlier positions. So anyway, I call, and the under the gun player folds, and the initial raiser calls an early position. Flop is pretty good for us, pretty favorable. Queen 8-6 with 2 diamonds. We have the current nuts, So we both check to the button, who makes a pretty small bet. I think he bet around 120, 140, very small bet. A lot of times when I have top set, I much prefer a call over a raise. You block a decent amount of their value betting hands with top set. This board is fairly wet. There's a lot of straight draws, there's a flush draw out there. Could pretty easily make a case for raising here. And thinking back, with this bet size that he c-bet and the draws, all the draws that are available, I kind of like raising this c-bet. Just with the combination of all those factors, it seems like a raise might be best. I decided to flat though. I decided to keep ranges wide. So I flat, and the guy in between thinks for a little bit and then folds. Turn isn't a great card. Turn is the 10 of diamonds. Brings the front door flush in. Completes a couple straight draws as well. Not a great card. I check. The button thinks for a while, and then he checks back. And if I thought that the turn card was a bad card, river card is also pretty terrible. River's an offsuit jack. So now any 9 makes a straight. Ace king gets there, and there's also a flush possibility, which I guess probably isn't much of a possibility. I would assume my opponent would bet all flushes on the turn, but ace king is definitely a possibility. I don't know if there's too much value in betting here with a set, so I check again. Button thinks for quite a while, and this time he bets about $330. Pretty lame situation that this has turned into. Flop top set, flop the nuts, and now you have like the 57th nuts. Obviously he would bet ace king here. Ace king is certainly a likely holding, but I started to think about, could he possibly be turning other pairs into bluffs? So I thought for a while. I definitely don't love the situation at all. Definitely not loving it. But I thought maybe he could be turning other random hands, other random pairs into bluffs. Just thought maybe there was enough combinations of these random hands. Just weird things, who knows? I mean, I don't have a list. I don't have this range list of hands or whatever that he could have here and there that he could be turning into bluffs here. I just felt like there was possibly enough of them. I think for a while, talked myself into the call, as you know I like to do, and clearly he didn't get the memo. He turns over pocket fours. So that worked out pretty well. So looking back, by not raising the flop with top set, actually ended up making us the most money. Got the max out of that one. So this ended up being a super long session. When we were driving over here in the car, calling the Bellagio poker room, it wasn't even 3 p.m. yet. Currently, as I'm talking to you, 5:15 in the morning. And as you look at this stack, you might be thinking, got him again, crushed it once again. But no, sadly, this is what a break-even stack looks like after a roller coaster session. Had some more run bad, followed by some run good. Managed to get full 1500 in with queens versus ace king. Won that flip, lost a bunch of other hands, won some more hands. Ended up losing a few hundred in the session, but considering that I was in the game for over 4K, losing a few hundred feels not quite a win, but feels pretty break even to me. Debating whether to go grab some food or just head home. What to do? The cold is arriving. Cold is here. We might actually have reached fall here in Las Vegas.
Thank you. You have a
Thanks. All right, I think we got to go to an old favorite classic Vegas spot for late night, early morning dining. Got to do it. The Peppermill.
Hello.
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
This place is an absolute classic. It's been here since 1972. It's been in movies, casino, 24/7 dining, on point, reasonable prices. Some other time we'll have to go to the Fireside Lounge, which is on the other side of the restaurant.
And he had Ginger, the woman he loved, on his arm.
Really cool little lounge, super kitsch, but good cocktails and really cool spot. So it's interesting to me how much my edge in a poker game can change based on how many other regs are in the game, how good they are. In the 5-10 games at the Bellagio, there's some pretty good poker players that are there every single day. It can make the games pretty unprofitable. I've talked before about how in order to be successful as a poker player, you have to not only love playing poker, but you also have to love studying poker. I think the love of studying poker took me as far as some lineups in 5-10. If you put me in a lineup of all regs in the Bellagio 5-10 game, I just don't think I'm going to be profitable. I might be break even. If you put me in a lineup of half regs and half recreational players, I'll be marginally profitable, decently profitable, I think. And if you put me in a lineup of 5-10 recreational players and 1 or 2 regs, I think I'll have a pretty good edge and I'll be able to crank out a pretty decent win rate in that game. I went with the classic Eggs Benedict, by the way. Classic. And the other thing that was interesting was that as the day was going on, the games seemed to be getting slightly better, slightly better, slightly better. And that's pretty much how you turn a daytime schedule into a nighttime schedule. The games during the nighttime, definitely a little bit better than the daytime games on average. I think the daytime schedule is a little bit better as far as the quality of life that you're gonna lead. Just my personal opinion. But it's tough. You're either winning, you're in a good game and you're winning and you want to keep playing in that good game, or you're stuck and you want to get unstuck. You stay later and later. I've had every sleep schedule there is. When I first moved to Vegas, my first year here, there was a good couple weeks where I was waking up at 11 p.m. Not good. Sun's coming up. Gotta fight this schedule. Gotta fight it off. Gonna go home, crash as soon as possible, and try to not sleep for 9 hours. See if I can do it.